Welcome to the Crash the Pond podcast. It is a Monday, September 26th edition of the show. And Jake, I think we said last podcast that this was the official kickoff to the season or to hockey being back.
Yeah.
But now I think it's even more so because we have evidence that a preseason game occurred over the weekend.
Let me ask you. If there are no actual advanced stats, if there's no Jumbotron image, if the only kind of grainy, if we only have some Twitter pictures from the official team account, and there's no time on ice for the people that played, does that mean an official game was played?
Well, let me ask you this, Jake. If a tree falls in a forest, but no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? Is that the expression?
Something like that. You nailed it.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Yeah. I mean, yes, so the Ducks had a preseason game this weekend against the Arizona Coyotes, and I don't think it was in their home arena.
Well, their home arena is not finished being built yet. They're starting on the road for, what is it, the first month or two of the season, basically whatever the Islanders had to do last year. I guess someone's confused because I'm not wearing a hat. I guess this is shocking.
Yeah, we've switched off.
We have. But yeah, so this game was in Tucson. I think they're kind of just going around. They're playing a game in Montana. They're just playing in a bunch of different places for all of preseason and not at their home arena because it's not finished yet. So this was in their AHL barn. That's probably why all the stats were tracked on AHL's website. And as a result, there's no real-time event data. There's no time on ice. There's none of the typical statistics that we get based off games where you and I could at least kind of make some general opinions on how the play was, even without having seen the game and and only having the radio broadcast. But we're kind of flying a bit blinder here than normal for this game.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to put it because we can only give you guys so much information based on that, unless we had actually been in Tucson, Arizona. I just don't know how else. I mean, you listen to the game on the radio, and I feel like it's hard to. I don't even know how.
Hockey's not a good sport for radio broadcast for me. I think that.
Yeah.
I think that a good radio broadcast for a hockey game tells you a story about what's happening in the game, but they don't necessarily relay every piece of information to you because it's such a hectic game. You're not going to be able to gather who is actually playing well because, I mean, what we talk about with the game, right, is that your eye is drawn to these bigger plays, right? And it's these it's the advanced statistics that allow us to know if our eye test is failing us or actually proving us right by looking at these and not necessarily always looking at the other plays. Well, that's not just about us. That's also radio broadcasts that happens to. And when kind of you're trying to pick out plays here and there to broadcast over the radio, that is why it's very much it can be very much impacted by those high intensity play or the higher impact plays that garner your eye. So I think that radio broadcasts, even though there's not a visual element, they are much more susceptible to the eye test than TV broadcasts.
Well, yeah, I mean, as the listener, you're fully dependent on whatever their viewpoint is. Mm-hmm. That's your only That's your only point of reference to understand the game, whereas when you're watching on TV, no matter how much you may disagree with the viewpoint of the broadcasters, you can still form your own opinion because you're seeing it. Yeah. You're seeing the same thing they're seeing. And also with hockey, there's just so much context to a play, to watching guys play. You're judging the rest of what's going on the ice with the decision that they're making. So anyway, didn't mean to get into that whole tangent, but we can touch on that very briefly. I mean, the Ducks won 3-2. Isaac Lindstrom had a power play goal. Tristan Luneau had a goal and an assist. Pavel Regenda had a goal. And in this game, not a lot of big names in the Ducks lineup. Max Jones Max Jones and Isaac Lindstrom were arguably the biggest names at forward. And then on the back end, I mean, you have a lot of younger guys. Noah Warren, Pavel Mintyukov is a big one in terms of young players. Nathan Beaulieu, I mean, it's just a PTO. There just wasn't a whole lot going on in this game in terms of roster quality.
Vakanainen played also.
Yeah, the Ducks do actually play the Sharks tomorrow night, and hopefully we'll have some footage of that game.
Yeah, I don't know if there will be necessarily footage, but I think that we will have better data because it's going to be at the SAP Center. So at least at the end of the day, we're going to have a little bit of better information coming off of that game. And actually, we'll get into that in a sec, but the lineup for that has come out through Eric Stevens and Lisa Dillman. Congrats, Lisa, by the way. I don't know if we've mentioned that she's now covering the Ducks for the OC Register. Make sure you go follow her. She's doing a great job over there.
She's been a nice. She's really bolstered the Ducks coverage so far.
Yep. But I guess kind of my only takeaways from this game, and it's just kind of based on listening to the game, based upon maybe Twitter a little bit, and based on looking at the relatively minor stats that we have, is that Isaac Lundestrom really was able to shine and did well in a power play role, which is something that he's probably not going to be able to get on the Ducks this year. So good on him for taking advantage of that, but that I don't necessarily think I would put him in that spot as the season begins, but maybe that's something they look at doing. One of our biggest criticisms, right, of Isaac Lundestrom was he was really good in transition and getting the puck through the neutral zone, but offensively was not able to necessarily make things happen. So if this is a sign, and now granted it's a big stretch because we don't know what happened, but if this is a sign that he's able to now take that next step creatively in the offensive zone, he could become actually a really good player for this team this year. I want to see it actually happen and see kind of how these goals happen as compared to just basing it off a goal and two assists. And not make sweeping.
Basing it off of a score sheet?
Yes. But I think we'll see what happens there. I think the other two things for me was Tristan Leno. I think he's a guy that both you and I really were impressed by during the rookie tournament. I think he was a standout to us and became a guy that I think you and I are both really excited about because of the pedigree that he had prior to being drafted and how he's probably went lower than he probably should have been. And in this game, he had a goal and an assist. Granted, I think it was a secondary assist, but I think the more impressive thing was as a defenseman, what we saw from him in the rookie tournament was ability to transition the puck and be active in the offensive zone. And that's something that you saw in this game just by looking at shots on goal. You don't get 5 shots on goal as a defenseman without trying to be active in that offensive zone. And so I think that's interesting to see from him. And then I think the other one is Lucas Dostal. He had 24 saves on 26 shots, allowed 2 goals against. One of them, I think, was a late garbage time goal. It was 3-1 for most of the game. And so I think he's a guy that's really, I think we should all be looking at trying to take a big step in the AHL this year and dominate that level. It's starting to get to that point for him where he needs to start doing that and start really kind of making a name for himself to grab that backup role for the Ducks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's, even in those games where the roster might not be star-studded, there's still something at play. There's always something to kind of try to glean from the performance. So outside of this game, and I think everything you said I would co-sign. I don't really have a ton to add. I think Luneau Watch is interesting, and I think this is a good segue into what I really wanted to get at, which is I don't think we talked about this in the last podcast. I think it came out over the last week, but Pat Verbeek had some comments that were disseminated, and I'll start with the one that's related to what we were just talking about, which is he mentioned that the bottom 6 is essentially up for grabs, that these jobs are up for the taking for anyone, that there's a lot of bodies in there. We kind of touched on this in different podcasts, that there's a lot of guys who could conceivably fill out the Ducks bottom 6, and Pat Verbeek basically indicated that it's an open competition. He didn't use those specific words, but it's an open competition for that bottom 6. Now, of course, how much of that should we take at face value, given that, contract considerations and whatnot? But I think it's interesting to think about because there are some more established names, like let's say a Derek Grant, even a Sam Carrick, who just signed a 2-year deal. But there's young bodies, and I think that's kind of encouraging because maybe the look we'll get on opening night is not one we would have drawn up during the summer.
Yep, and we should note on Sam Carrick, he's going to miss the start of the season. I think they said he'll be out till November, I think was the report.
Right.
Let me double check on that as we keep going, just so you all have the proper information there. But yeah, I think the open, this is the exact quote on competition at camp for roster spots, because I don't think and maybe you said this as I was kind of looking some stuff up, but he didn't just necessarily say it about the bottom 6 spots for the 3rd and 4th line. He also said for defense.
And that's a bit of an issue to me, because I think the defense is far less wide open than he is letting on. Realistically, there's
1 or 2.
There's at least 4 spots that are just set in stone. In stone. Jamie Drysdale's on the team, Cam Fowler's on the team, John Klingberg's on the team, Kevin Shattenkirk maybe he's actually going to have to fight for a spot. But I think that those four are solid. They traded for Dmitry Kulikov. He's making a decent amount of money. I would just have a hard time imagining that he's, just shy of being a shoo-in for a spot. So, hey, maybe Pat Verbeek means what he says, and maybe that there's actually maybe two spots that are open. But in terms of the blue line, that's good news for, the likes of an Olin Zellweger. I think that's the name that comes to mind for everybody. I mean, hey, if Pavel Mintyukov can somehow, just really impress everyone throughout training camp. I mean, we talked about it for the rookie face-off breakdown. There's a lot of young blue liners right now in this system that, hey, maybe if they have a good training camp, they can at least get a short stint with the Ducks. I think that is less impactful for the actual where the Ducks will finish in the standings than how the forward bottom six looks, because that's just a lot more spots.
Yeah.
And
really quick, Carrick is going to be out till November is what the report is.
Yeah, so Carrick's out. And so I guess my question would just be, and we can try to work through this a little bit on the fly here, but what do you think that the bottom six will look like, assuming that it is indeed wide open?
So really quickly, want to jump in on what you said about the defense. I read that quote as being, I think there's for sure one spot up in the air on the defense, and we kind of knew that going the left side of that bottom, the bottom pairing, whether it's a Vakanainen, whether it's a Zellweger, whether it's Mahura, whether it's a Benoit, there's a competition going on right now. And I think that's what that means. And I think maybe there's potentially one more spot. Maybe it is Shattenkirk that gets beaten out by maybe like a Drew Hellison per se. And Drew Hellison wins that bottom pairing right-hand shot defenseman role and over a Kevin Shattenkirk. And I don't think that's likely, but I think that there are definitely question marks there that can be asked. And I think that I think that it makes sense. I think it's a valid criticism of the roster by Pat Verbeek and what he's looking to happen with that bottom pairing. And so do you want to jump into going over the roster right now? We can definitely do that. I know that we had some questions about this, so this will probably just answer them. But let's just do it. Screw it. Let's go for it.
Well, so I just want to say this, because this is something that, well, before we do that, I want to point out that this is another thing that Pat Verbeek said is no captain this year.
Yes.
No captain for this team. And basically said that...
sorry, I'm going to jump in and correct you. He didn't say no captain this year.
Okay.
He said, we're going to take our time. There's no rush. And when we name a captain, it's going to be the right guy and a guy we plan on being here for a long time. And there's going to be veterans in that room, and they're going to let leaders emerge. So I don't think that's... I think more likely than not, there's not going to be a captain this year. But that quote didn't necessarily say that completely.
So I listened to his interview.
Okay.
So and so he said, we're not naming a captain at this time. So... Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you're saying that now, like, what's the precedent of a captain being named midseason?
True. No, it's like I said, it's not completely it's not that likely, but I don't think it's completely out of the question.
Yeah, but what do you think about that, though?
I think it's the right call. I think that Ryan Getzlaf was the longest tenured captain in franchise history. I don't think that it was like a Scott Niedermayer where there was an obvious transition to a Ryan Getzlaf ready-made for that role, going into his prime, kind of ready for that spot. There wasn't. I think that it makes sense that you wanna see what happens necessarily. So I think it's the right call.
Yeah, and just to be very absolutely crystal clear about what he said we're not going to be naming a captain right now. Mm-hmm. So if you take that, at face value, literally that's all it means. I think it means that there's probably not going to be a captain this year, because letting a leadership group, play itself out, that takes time.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen overnight.
This, I believe, will be the first year in Ducks history where there is not a captain.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the right call. I will agree with you that I think it's the right call. I think that there was definitely a case to be made that you just name. I think that if you're like a Cam Fowler or an Adam Henrique, one of those veteran guys, maybe you're slightly miffed, right? Because wouldn't Cam Fowler have been like, for example, a shoe-in to be at least like a transitional captain, right? It's kind of interesting that they just totally foreclose that possibility, and instead they're just going to let a leader emerge. I prefer this route that they're taking, but it is kind of interesting that instead of naming a guy who maybe is going to be a captain for a shorter period of time until maybe a younger leader emerges. They're just going no captain for now.
I like this better also because it removes any possibility of having to strip the guy of the letter.
Well, that's and I think that's a good point, which is that if you go the quote unquote transition captain route, it kind of cheapens the captaincy a little bit, just because everyone knows that maybe this isn't the guy long term, and then yes, like you said, there's this uncomfortable moment later down the line where you have to change captains.
Like Cam Fowler's under contract for 4 more seasons. So,
yes. Yeah.
like, is your plan to have him be captain for all 4 of those years? And I've been a very big advocate for Cam Fowler being captain. But if that is not your plan for him to be captain for all 4 of those seasons, then don't do that right now.
Who would you say is the favorite right now? How would you handicap the captaincy candidates right now?
Based on, if you want to go based upon where there's smoke, there's fire. It would probably be a Mason McTavish. If you want my honest opinion, I would honestly say Trevor Zegras. The reason for that, I think McTavish represents the traditional mold of a hockey captain, right? A guy
He's got a beard.
A guy that's got a beard. He is kind of the hardworking type of guy. He's the good old Canadian kid, right? And he's going to be a very good player, very good two-way responsible player. All the things that are kind of said about him. And while that's not wrong, and I think that he would make a great choice as a captain, me personally, I think that the captain should not only be the leader in the room, but you also have to consider him the face of your franchise in the sense of this is the guy that's going to be doing media. This is the guy that's going to be answering the media, giving kind of being out there front and center all these situations. And who is the person for the Ducks at the NHL media tour? It's Trevor Zegras. He's the face of this franchise. He's the one out there. He is the best ambassador that this team has ever had, I think.
Yeah.
I think even more so than Teemu Selanne, and that may be bold, but I think that just the personality that he has and how he can relate, how a lot of people can probably relate to him and just how much fun he has, I think that is that would be a big reason why I would pick a Trevor Zegras.
So I think the reason that it might not be Zegras is that captains aren't, it's not just like you're the most outspoken guy. It's in terms of the media part of it. It's that there is some polish that's required. There is a little bit of, hey, you're in a way the PR person for the dressing room, for the team. And Trevor Zegras, I think what makes him so fun and unique is that he doesn't do that stuff. He's not really a full-on cliche machine. I mean, you'll recall the incident in Arizona where he comes out and said what he did, that it was such a an effing joke.
That's why I think he would be a great choice, because he's not a cliche machine. I think that's not a reason that I think that's a reason why he wouldn't be picked. But I think from my own personal perspective, that would be the reason why I would want him to be.
But that's the thing is, so I'm not discounting your argument. It's just, I think that the way that it's probably viewed in this hockey culture is more that they want closer. I think on the spectrum of robot to Trevor Zegras, they probably want a little closer to robot. The captain. I mean, and you want someone who's also a straight shooter, and I think that's what Eric Stevens talked about on this show. What was so great about Ryan Getzlaf is that he didn't always hold back. He was at least good at kind of letting you in somewhat on what was going on. My pick would be Troy Terry, because I think that Troy Terry, he's already, the way he speaks to the media, he's a step down from Zegras in that he's not, so happy-go-lucky. He's just very frank. He's very honest, and he's also analytical. He's giving you a full breakdown, but he's not compromising any information either. And I think he'd be just a really good example too. A mid-round pick, a guy who had to work his way up through the ranks, so it wasn't handed to him. I think that you're talking about leading by example. I think that would be a really good pick, because like you said with the whole Mason McTavish thing, we don't. There's good intel on him as a leader so far in his career. But this assumption that he's just going to be this model two-way player, we don't know anything about his defensive play in the NHL yet. So, yeah, I would pump the brakes on the McTavish captain hype. But if it happens, it will know that it was the right call because Pat Verbeek is letting it play out. So, we do like that.
There shouldn't be a rush with anything right now with this team. I think that there's a lot of things that are kind of in the wait-and-see mode. And seeing what happens. And I think that Pat Verbeek has the ability to be patient with this, and he's taking his time on it. I think that's what you want to see.
And you know, I mean, I don't mean to say this like in a negative way, but this is the kind of year where you do that because there's not that much at stake for the Ducks this year. Even though they've taken some steps, they've spent some money, they have put together a more competitive roster, they're not yet in a position where there's real pressure to perform. So why not just kind of, you know, take it easy on the leadership front and give that some time, see what these guys are made of in an environment where there's a little bit more pressure, but there's still not, it's not a pressure cooker quite yet. So
yep,
it'll be interesting.
All right, let's get it. Just really quickly mention this, and then if you've got anything else to cover, we'll hit our break and then get to some questions, because this is probably the last podcast in a while where we're not going to have any sort of game to talk about, because I'm going to be at the game Wednesday. So I'm going to have information. I'm going to actually have opinions next week.
Wow, insider. Well, you were at training camp.
No, I was not.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I just totally misread our Discord.
You just made that up completely.
I don't know. It just seemed like you were. You were very active in the discussion, but I mean, you weren't. So
I was being fed information by our man on the street, Mike DeFlorio, who was there. And do you want the info that he gave me?
Sure. Yeah. Let's give credit where credit is due.
Nathan Gaucher looks great.
Okay. Well, hey, who called that potentially being the case?
Yeah.
A while ago. I don't know.
Yeah. If he makes this team, are you gonna take a victory lap?
No, I'm just gonna do the silent bat flip. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna let people come to me and shower me with credit.
Wow. All right. Let's see. And that was also Mike's letting me know. Olaf, who's also from our Discord, and Connor, all of them loved what Gaucher did at training camp. So yeah, there's that.
Trusted eyes.
So there we go. And then for the game tomorrow, Eric Stevens reported it appears that the Ducks will send Stolars and Eriksson Ek. And then you'll have Regenda, Godin, Grimaldi, Jones, and Gaucher. They could be back in after playing on Sunday. And then also you'll have Shattenkirk, Zellweger, White, Cote, Hines, Anderson, Mahura, Derek Grant, Hunter Drew, Jacob Silverberg, Kirkland, Comtois, Chiguerel, and Lopina.
Yeah, so Zellweger watch.
Yeah, Zellweger's going to be interesting.
Let it begin.
Yeah, I think it... We'll get into this more when we make our, try to build out our lineups. Mm-hmm. But I think getting back to those quotes, I think that's honestly going to make this training camp so exciting. I think when there's a lot of jobs at play, I know we mentioned last time that there's not a lot of takeaways that you can have from rookie camp, and same thing with training camp because it's a smaller sample. You don't know who the team's playing against. But when there are jobs on the line and they're trying to earn a roster spot and trying to set kind of where guys go, I think it's a really fascinating thing to watch because you get to kind of see what happens and see where these guys go, see them get rewarded or not rewarded if they don't perform up to snuff. And so I think that's going to be something really exciting to see.
Yeah, and I think what makes it even more exciting is that there's open spots and there's guys who could legitimately win those spots, right? It's not just like 2 years ago's roster saying, "Oh, well, hey, it's a competition," except there's just not a whole lot of guys who can actually do anything with that. So
yep,
it'll be fun.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
No. Let's get into this break.
All right. So hey, you got bush? You definitely do if you haven't tried the best products from our sponsor today, Manscaped. Taking control of your bush is important. These products are so good, you're going to be showing pride in your new bush-free yard. It's a fact that you will have the best-kept nutsack on the cul-de-sac. Save big and be the most hygienic version of yourself by using our discount code CTP for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. So whether you're looking to go or bald like an eagle or just in need of a safe trim, Manscaped is dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game. The grooming package I highly recommend is the Performance Package 4.0. Inside that package is the Lawnmower 4.0. This electric trimmer is a bush's worst nightmare, and you have no need for night vision goggles with this thing. The trimmer has an LED light to allow you to mow the lawn in the dark. And it's basic landscaping. When you trim the hedges, the trees stand taller. And the second best tool in the performance package is the Weed Whacker. This fine-tuned nose and ear hair trimmer will make sure your nasty nose pubes are under control. You can instantly add some pep to your step with the Crop Preserver ball deodorant and the Crop Reviver spray-on toner. And then on top of that, you can also get 2 free gifts, the travel bag and the Manscaped boxers with this. And they also have a bunch of other products on their website that help you maximize your confidence and get your grooming game, or maximize your confidence and grooming game. So you can get 20% off and free shipping with our code CTP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use our code CTP. It's time you level up from the Amazon to the Amadong with the ultimate bushwhacking tools from Manscaped. And
there you go.
So this episode's also brought to you by True Classic. So today's episode is sponsored by True Classic. Guys, let's talk about t-shirts. Finding that perfect fitting shirt can be terrible. I swear, that thing is either way too tight, has a case of the bacon neck, or is just a plain big and boxy. Luckily, True Classic wants to make every man look good and feel good. Tighter fit in the chest and the sleeves to make your arms pop, and room out in the torso to keep things cozy. I'm telling you, all of their styles are super soft and at a great price for what you're getting. So guys, no excuses. Get rid of those ratty t-shirts I know you've been hanging on to for years. Yes, I'm in that same boat. I have one behind me. And get ready to upgrade. We have an exclusive deal for our listeners. We want to hook you up with some True Classic. For a limited time only, get 25% off with the code CTP at trueclassic.com. And so almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good on a certain body type. These skinny models with 6-packs, I know, jealous. But most of us aren't packing anything but a few beers, and there's nothing wrong with that, my dudes. It's simple. You're wearing the wrong clothes. Their True Classics tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. You can throw on that True Classic with confidence, knowing we've got your bases covered. And for guys that, for the big boys out there, they have long body options for the tall guys and up to triple XL on their staple colors. True Classic will make you feel your best by accentuating the places the eyes go to first. Wink, wink. Whether you have abs or flabs, their clothes look great on all body types. Skinny dudes, big dudes, buff dudes, my dudes. True Classic has you covered. So get comfortable, get going, and upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic. Get 25% off at trueclassic.com with the code CTP. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. It's 100% risk-free guarantee and with a 30-day return policy. True Classic. When you look good, you feel good.
Alrighty. So, I think, are we just going straight to questions? Is that the play here?
I think that's the play. I think there's not a whole lot else to talk about. There haven't been any roster cuts. I mean, really the only thing that's come out is Rocco Grimaldi signed to PTO, Nathan Beaulieu on a PTO. I realized over the week or weekend when those rosters were announced that the main reason those guys are signed is you have to have, I think it's 7, it's either 7 or 8 NHL veterans, quote unquote, on your roster. And a veteran's defined as a guy that either played in 30 games last year as a first rounder from this previous draft, and there's a bunch of
it's basically a workaround from having to play your real players.
Yeah, and so that Grimaldi counts as that, and Beaulieu counts as that. Like that's the main reason those guys are there. So let's get into these questions. So Olaf's Berserker said, with the blue line where it is, NHL and pipeline, do you see a point in targeting either RFAs still out there? He references Sandin or Nick Hague before the season. And is your answer different today than it would have been 4 months ago?
Well, yeah. I mean, they got John Klingberg. That matters. And then they traded for Dmitry Kulikov. So, yeah, my answer is definitely different. I think that right now, I think you just kind of want to let things play out. The top 4 is pretty solid. I mean, assuming Kulikov is in there, I think Kevin Shattenkirk's likely to be a regular on the roster. And then, yeah, give an Olton Zellweger a shot, see what you have in that cohort of Vakanainen, Mahura, Benoit. I think you can rotate through those guys, maybe Minchukov, maybe Hellison, right? So there's going to be opportunities, and I think you're at the point where the major spots are filled out. Let the internal competition kind of see itself through.
See, I'm going to disagree with you there. I think it depends on what the cost is at the end of the day. I think the big question is whether you see Sandin or Hague outperforming some of your younger guys. And if you think long-term that's going to be the better play, I think you have to look at it, because at the end of the day, you look at the Ducks roster right now and you look at specifically on the defense, we're talking about one guy that's probably here for two guys probably here for the long haul, right? In Cam Fowler, just because of his contract, going to be here for 4 more years, and then Jamie Drysdale. And so even though they have guys locked up for this year, I mean, Rasmus Sandin is only 22 years old. Like, it's not as if he's much different than a Drew Hellison in age, and he has NHL experience, and I believe his underlying metrics, I would need to double check that, but they're pretty damn good from what I recall. If you want to look that up as I'm saying that, whether I make myself look right or wrong here. But I think if those situations pop up and if the right deal, I think that you do have to go for it still, because you're getting a guy that has NHL experience that is probably going to be better potentially than some of these other guys. At the end of the day, they're more of a sure thing. And so that fills out your roster, builds guys around the same contending window that you have with the Zegras, the Drysdale, things like that, guys around that age. And so I think Rasmus Sandin, Nick Hague, I'm not as confident on, just personally. And so Sandin's a guy I think I would. But at the end of the day, it depends on what the price is with all of them. Because I don't think you can have too many of a good thing, especially with these prospects that aren't going to be in the NHL. For a little bit, they're going to be able to be moved if there are not spots available, and you can use them as bargaining chips, or you move them in these deals. And so there's a lot of possibilities. I don't think that just based upon what happened this offseason, anything's changed from that perspective if one of these guys is available, specifically Sandin.
Yeah, I think Nick Hague is, I mean, his numbers are not anything to be like going crazy about. Sandin's are very good. I guess my question with Sandin is he is a left shot, and down the left side, the Ducks don't really have that many bodies. I mean, Cam Fowler is a left shot, so he's really the only guy that's there for the foreseeable future. And then after that, I mean, yeah,
Zellweger, basically.
Zellweger. So maybe you look at Sandin as to try to kind of solidify that left side for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
You know, you are going to have to work out a contract with him. He hasn't signed yet with the Leafs, so I don't know exactly what's going on there, why that hasn't happened. If anyone wants to enlighten us on that, but I guess the point is, I think you are correct that just because there are a lot of possibilities, that doesn't mean you should stop looking. But I also think it's justifiable to kind of let things play out internally as well, just at least for the time being.
And I mean, they just drafted Mintyukov, who's a left-hand shot also, so we shouldn't forget about him over in the next coming years. He's probably going to be on competing for a roster spot. But I don't think that is necessarily going to stop you from going out and getting a guy like this, because you can always see what you can do. Maybe look at moving one of them to the right side, or see what you can do there, basically. And so I think if you can get a Rasmus Sandin, and I think that this is my opinion just in general, if you can get a young guy in the contending window of this roster that helps improve this team, I think you have to do that.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And Sandin would be, I mean, it looks like he'd be most likely getting a bridge deal, which would be about 2 years, $1.6 million. So this isn't a guy who's going to come in and break the bank, and you're probably going to get good value for that contract. He's going to be an RFA at the end of it. So there's a lot to like there. I mean, the weird thing with Sandin is that he has good underlying numbers, but if you look at like the tracking data, he's really bad at the tracking data does not look at him favorably defensively. Like he lets in players through the blue line. His carry against percentage is really bad. So something to think about. I haven't really thought about that player a lot, but I think that the methodology there makes sense to keep targeting other players.
Yep. You're going to love this one. Good friend of the show, Green Bastard, Bastardo Verde, said, should the Ducks offer Jack Kopaka a PTO? If not, why are you wrong and terrible at hockey analysis? If yes, why are you such an alpha male that everyone should look up to?
I'm going to go with no. They should not.
Where is he playing now? I feel like he's playing over in Europe somewhere. For anyone that doesn't know, for whatever reason, Green Bastard is the biggest Jack Kopaka fan there is. Yeah, he's playing in the Allsvenskan.
Yeah.
So not even in the SHL, in the Swedish Elite League.
That's going to be a no for me.
Isn't that the AHL of Sweden?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's not good. Sorry, GB. JJ Stone Drum says, what are your thoughts on the newer podcast from Duck Stream? What's your overall thoughts on the Ducks having full rights and ownership for the radio broadcast? Lastly, with the rumors of the NHL possibly buying back the rights for some teams' broadcast, could you see the Ducks games moving on to Ducks Stream?
That's a lot of questions in there. I think the Ducks Stream, you're the one that has a lot of opinions on that, so I'm not going to spend too much. But I think spend too much time on it. But I think it's a cool idea. I think that it's a step in the right direction where you're kind of targeting where the attention actually is. And so I think that it's a cool idea. They've already done a podcast where they had Paul Correa and Timo Solani on. I'm curious to see where it'll go, but the Ducks are getting with the times. You always love to see that.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool, very interesting and unique idea. I think they're the first team in the NHL to do this, so they deserve major props for coming up with this idea and doing it. I'm very curious to see how it happens and how it goes off and how it keeps continuing. I think From Mighty Till Now is one of the more fascinating ones for me, because I think just having listened to that one, the conversation between Korea and Solani was fascinating, and they could have just had them to have their own podcast. The other ones, I'm a little bit more wait and see. I think they're cool. I want to see once the season kicks off how they're doing, because right now it's a little bit more kind of broad NHL coverage, interviewing broadcasters about their own process, which I think is interesting. But at this point in time, I want to dive into training camp news, things like that. So I think if it gets more focused, I think I'm gonna probably enjoy that more. So curious to see how it plays out. On the concept of it having, and personally, I use TuneIn, but I probably won't use it for podcasts, and I won't use Duckstream to listen to all of the media on there. For me personally, it's just going to my podcast app, going to Spotify, listen on there. So I think it's an interesting concept. I'm curious how many listens they're going to get on TuneIn versus podcast app. Because, and also I think the Pat Verbeek episodes will be interesting. I hope that those are focused on behind the scenes workings and not necessarily, I think there was an interview that he did, I forget the podcast, but he did an interview and was talking primarily about hunting and things like that, and not really, and about his time under Yzerman, and barely talked about the Ducks, if anything. And so I hope that it doesn't go into that. I hope it stays more on focus about the Ducks and kind of things like that. So there's that. And the Ducks having full rights and ownership for their radio broadcasts, I also think that's cool. That's something I'm really, really a big fan of. I think the Kings did that last year and put it on iHeartRadio. And so I think that's the way of the future. I mean, we've been doing this podcast for how many seasons now? 4 or 5 seasons. Internet media is growing, and I don't even know if radio really has a huge stranglehold on a lot of people listening to it anymore. I think it always will somewhat, but I think that this is where things are going, and I think it's a very nice leap into the future for them to do this. So that's that. As for the rumors of the NHL possibly buying back the rights for some teams' broadcasts, could you see Ducks games moving on to Duckstream? So I don't think they would move on to Duckstream, because that is an audio platform specifically on TuneIn and is hosted by TuneIn. And for those of you who don't know, radio stations are just on TuneIn. AM 830 was on there, different things like that. I'm very curious to see how that plays out, though, and where the games are broadcast, or if just every game's on ESPN Plus and that's how it works. That is something that I hope happens, though, because I am so over preseason games not being broadcast because the local broadcaster does not want to have it, and it's not that hard to just simply take the Jumbotron feed and put it on YouTube for a live stream, and they can't do it because of the local broadcaster not taking it, and so they're not allowed to because of those rights. And I had my guy saying there's blackouts on ESPN Plus. There's only blackouts on ESPN Plus because of local broadcasters. If the NHL, if the team owns it, they can not have local blackouts. It's their right. They can do whatever the hell they want with it.
Yeah, I mean, following NHL games in 2022 should not be as complicated as it is. There should not be a preseason game that is not streamed somewhere, is my opinion. It's not hard to stream stuff to YouTube. I've figured it out with the show, and I'm not exactly someone that knew anything about this prior to doing this show. And I figured it out over time. And so it's something we should all be able to do. Jake is basically saying that because he figured it out for this podcast, that
somebody that
hire him is what he's saying.
Well, no, but I'm just saying that this shouldn't be something that Bally Sports should be stopping from happening.
Yeah, I would just be curious to know what their reasoning is for why it's not happening, because I'm sure there's some kind of explanation, and I'm just curious what that is.
Yeah,
not saying that it would be a valid one, but I'm sure there's some kind of explanation.
Yeah, and Sprint Car F1 said the rookie tournament was on YouTube. Yes, it was, but that was not something, a game that was held the rights to by the local broadcaster.
Yeah.
So that's why that was like that. So, but yeah, I have no idea really what's going to happen there if the NHL teams buy their rights back from Sinclair. But I hope they do. I don't like Bally. I don't think it's been good since.
I did want to touch on something that I forgot to talk about. Is that the Ducks hired a data scientist for their hockey ops department, Connor Jung. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The thing with that is that Connor Jung used to work at Sportlogic, which is the hockey analytics company, which does it's all tracking data based, but they use I think an AI software to do that, so it's not manually tracked. So bring in a guy who works with the actual data to synthesize it, work with the databases, whatever he's actually doing. Data scientist is kind of a broad term. The fact that he's going to work specifically with hockey ops, I mean, this is kind of like what we talked about way back when Pat Verbeek was hired. That analytics
when Jeff Solomon was hired.
Yeah, well, there was, yeah. Now there's just no Bob Murray to stifle Jeff Solomon anymore, but. Yeah, it's an exciting hire because now we know that the Ducks are actually going to be using data to bolster their decision making.
Well, and it's something that you and I have probably been talking about for years now of the team kind of getting lost behind it, especially.
And the thing is, like, this isn't even really that noteworthy in the grand scheme because every team does this for the most part. It's just the Ducks have been in the dark ages for a few years now, and they're just now catching up.
Like you look at how much I think Shayna puts out that list of all the different analytics people within different teams, and right now for the Ducks, I think it was Jeff Solomon and the video coach. I think we're the only two people listed there. So it's a very exciting time. I think it's just another sign that I've mentioned this before, but it feels like the team is going in the right direction now, and it feels like there is a proper direction where this team is going, and this is just another sign of that.
Yep, they are competently run.
Yep. So Heyo Deflo said, "What is your prediction?" And here's the one for the Ducks' third and fourth line forwards to start the season. He's leaning towards McTavish, Lundestrom, Silverberg, and Jones, Gaucher, Perreault. So let's just jump into the lineup because I had mentioned we would do that as we got to questions. So
I think the hard thing with this is that you need to know who's the top six first.
I think that I'm pretty confident in saying that it's going to be some combination of Vetrano, Zegras, Terry, Strome, Henrique, and then either Comtois or McTavish.
Okay. So yeah, I think I would agree McTavish being in the top six. He's in there. So that leaves Comtois available for the bottom six. I think third line center, is it still Isaac Lundestrom there?
I think so. I don't think the only way I think it wouldn't be Isaac Lundestrom is if you swapped either McTavish or Henrique to center. But it sounds as if Mason McTavish is going to start on the wing. It seems like Adam Henrique is also going to be on the wing. So I think with that being the case, I think that it's pretty much set that I think Isaac Lundestrom will be that third line center.
So who is your third line left wing? Is it Max Comtois?
I think it's probably either Max Comtois or maybe a Max Jones. I think they'll start with Comtois there, though. I think he has the higher pedigree of the two of them. And granted, it depends on how he does at training camp. But if he's lighting it up, I could see him starting on that second line and McTavish starting here. But I think it's one of those two on the second and third line left wing.
Yeah, and then at right wing on the third line, I mean, now you get into interesting territory because there's a lot of options.
I think it's going to be Jakob Silverberg, and I feel pretty good about that call. Okay. That's not necessarily what I would do, but I think that's just what's going to happen.
Is that a good NHL line?
I think it would be an okay fourth line.
Yeah, that's not a great line.
That's not a good line to have in your middle six.
Yeah, I'm very curious how they're gonna design that bottom six.
Maybe Lundestrom has picked up his game, is able to distribute the puck and find Comtois in dangerous spots, and Silverberg's just there to be good defensively. And
Silverberg was bad last year.
Wasn't he good defensively? Am I misremembering that?
Well, let's see.
I could have sworn that while he was playing that he was actually pretty good defensively, but just was absolutely nothing offensively.
Which that too is kind of a problem.
100%.
Yeah, I mean he was basically a below replacement at driving offense. He was a 0 in terms of suppressing expected goals, and he was good at suppressing shot attempts.
Yep.
So I mean that's a fourth liner. So we'll see. Maybe the time off has benefited him. Fourth line. So I think left wing. I think it'll be Max Jones.
Yeah.
I think that they want to give him kind of this chance to redeem his career, or not redeem, but just get back on track, I should say. Center. I mean, is it anyone else but Nathan Gaucher? It can't be, right? I'm going Nathan Gaucher.
We both know where this is probably going to go.
So I'm going to say this. Nathan Gaucher is on this fourth line, whether he's at center or not. He's on it. If you want to put Derek Grant at center, by all means, go for it. But I wouldn't be so confident that Derek Grant's in the lineup.
I have no idea. I've been burned way too many times by Derek Grant. So
I can't see Dallas Eakins. I can't see Dallas Eakins having a quote unquote, open competition or whatever you want to call it, and looking at Derek Grant and thinking, no, not him.
Yeah.
Not him. Yeah. Not the guy that I've treated as a Selke winner. Not the guy that I've, stifled my top center's development with. Not him.
Yeah. If so, let's do this. I think that, I think why not? Let's do Gaucher, Grant, Jones as the fourth line.
Is that a good fourth line? I actually think that so Grant's numbers last year, not terrible.
Not terrible. I think part of that is getting dragged by Zegras. But
weren't you the one who said that they didn't actually spend that much time together?
They spent more time together than Delorier did.
Yeah, but that was like 5 games.
Delorier, I think it was like 150 or 160 minutes that Grant spent with Zegras.
Yeah.
So I think decent amount.
I think that with Grant, I should retract what I said. He was better than he's been, but still bad.
Yeah, exactly. No, but here's the thing. I don't think it's a great fourth line. I think that Gaucher...
It's not a good bottom six, to be honest.
Gaucher and Jones makes it interesting. I think if I were to go ahead So I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's fair. I think if I were the coach of this team, I think probably what I would end up doing is... God, maybe that third line, I just say screw it and just at least try some things and maybe go Comtois, go Gaucher, and go on the right wing Jacob Perreault, and then on the fourth line do Lundestrom, Jones, and Silverberg. And so essentially that third line has now got swapped into the fourth line role, and you're putting more kids in that third line role, protect them a little bit, and put them in offensive situations there where they can thrive, and you have it as Gaucher and Perreault together and throw Max Comtois on there and see what happens. And so I think that's an interesting use of the roster where you have this quote-unquote kid line that is not going to be thrown to the wolves in a third-line role, going to be protected a bit. And you're really – I think where this Ducks team's going this year as we talk this through is that the top 6 should be getting most of the minutes.
Yes, that bottom 6 – I guess what Dallas Eakins could do is try to spread the wealth a little bit, have Adam Henrique on a third line, something like that. But the path is pretty wide open for a Jacob Perreault, I think, because that bottom 6 is devoid of offense, with all due respect to Max Comtois. That bottom 6, who's going to provide you anything offensively? Derek Grant, he only scores in the penalty kill. Max Jones is not an offensive threat. Jakob Silverberg is not that either. So, and Isaac Lundestrom, I think that he had a good year last year. I still don't know. Maybe he takes this big step forward, but he's still just one guy. And so I think that if Jacob Perreault can at least just show well in this training camp, like he has that, there is a need for him. There is a need for his player type.
Yeah, and you could maybe even see both Braden Tracy and Jacob Perreault on this team, maybe. I don't think that's likely.
So my problem with Tracy is that he's just he has this like ambiguous archetype, right? He's not really an offensive guy. He's not really known as a defensive presence. And I think that coaches love guys that they can pin into a role on the bottom 6. And so you already have Max Jones, who's kind of the energy guy. And I feel like that's where Tracy is at right now. And I'm not saying that Tracy doesn't deserve to be there. I'm just looking at it pragmatically, like would Dallas Eakins, does he have a path to get in the lineup?
Realistically, there's probably one spot available. I think that this is us discussing what you and I would do. I think more realistically, there's one spot available for a younger guy, in the sense of whether it's a Pavel Regenda, whether it is, I know you and I both don't think that should happen. Whether it's a Jacob
I
Perreault,
mean, Regenda could make the team.
Whether it's a Nathan Gaucher, there's only really one spot available for those guys because I don't think Gaucher would be the only one I could see them putting on the roster and healthy scratching because of the not being able to go to the AHL. But
well, you know who we haven't talked about?
Who?
Someone who everyone was talking about last year.
Bo Grew.
Yeah. What's up with that? Why has he? Maybe is this the year he actually shows out?
We talked about it last year, right? Talked about it I think over summer that it's wild that he had all this hype coming into the season and then played after he got sent down. Played what, one game I think with the Ducks after that.
And I just want to note the hype that we're referring to was what we had heard from people within the Ducks. This was like information
correct
that we were getting. It wasn't just, this isn't us just reading replies or whatever, although we do that too.
Yeah.
The issue with Bo Grew is that I just don't know if he's an NHL level skater.
Yep.
That's the difference with Tracy, is that I think he has that. It's just, what can he then do with that?
Yeah. All right, here we go. I'm gonna make my claim here. I think that our top or the bottom six is set with what we said, with having Gaucher on the roster, with
Perreault,
with Grant and Jones on the fourth line, and then I'm gonna say the healthy scratch on the forward group is Chase DeLeo.
What?
Oh, he's the healthy scratch because they don't want to have all the other guys. They don't want to have as in the press box. They want to have him playing in the AHL. I think Chase DeLeo has purely been signed to be the healthy scratch this year.
Okay.
To be the Vinny Lettieri of the team this year.
Okay.
And I think for him being on the team opening night roster, even if he's not playing, probably pretty cool for him. Being able to be in Honda Center, be on the bench, be announced on the team. That's probably going to be a cool moment for him. So I'm calling my shot there.
If he plays, I mean, I just don't know if that's a great use of a roster spot.
Yeah.
So
let's just really quickly, what do you think left if you had to put a ranking on the sixth defenseman? Bonnie asked, by the way, would they really bring Chase back just to healthy scratch? Yes.
Yeah, they would, but not because they don't want him to play. It's like, I think it's what Jake is getting at is the way that the rules are constructed. It's just that with him being the healthy scratch, there are guys who you don't want to scratch that you can have play in the AHL.
And you have a guy that has
by the way, Bonnie, I just want to say this: there is a benefit for Chase DeLeo to be a healthy scratch in the NHL,
sure, as
opposed to playing. He gets paid more. Yeah. By just by not playing in the NHL.
Yep. Yep. And I think with DeLeo, you have a guy that has professional experience. If something does happen in warmups and he has to be a late game addition, I think that you're not feeling absolutely horrible about it. He's a guy that has some experience and can play games as compared to a 20-year-old, 21-year-old.
He has 7 NHL games in his career.
I said professional. I didn't say NHL.
I know, but I'm just saying.
I was very specific about that.
He gets $750K in the NHL versus $350K in the AHL, which I would love to make either of those, but that's a big step up in the NHL.
All right, so let's do this. Defensive pairings. And we'll start blitzing through questions. So we got a lot of Twitter ones also. Defensive pairing. Really, I think that probably the sixth defenseman is the one that's up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can blitz through the top 4. It's going to be, I mean, in configuration, Fowler, Drysdale, who am I missing here? Klingberg and Kulikov, and then Shattenkirk's on the third pairing. I'm going to go Olen Zellweger for my sixth guy, and then seventh defenseman.
I mean, I think they're going to do seventh and eighth and have it be both Mahura or be Vakanainen and Mahura.
Vakanainen, Mahura, Benoit, 2 of those 3. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Just simply does not matter.
I'd agree with that. I think outside shot, maybe Drew Hellison makes the team. But
I'm gonna go Benoit because he got a real jersey number now, and that has to mean he's got the inside track.
Okay, there you go. Benoit and Vakanainen for the 2 healthy scratches on defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
Okay. All right, so let's get to some more questions. Shake and Wing said y'all need to talk about the new Ducks media staff and how they use Zegras. Have you seen kind of all the Trevor Zegras stuff around from the last week or two? I
mean, they're doing the reasonable thing. Like, he's marketable get him out there, put him in front of every camera, behind every mic. I think there's some people that may be getting tired of it, but who cares?
I love it.
He's great. Yeah, like I love the hate. I think it's great. I don't think it's gonna wear out. Yes,
I feel like anytime you watch a video with him, he just like exudes. Well, he exudes that he's just trying to make you laugh. Like he's just trying to have a good time.
Well, I think the thing with him though is that there is an element of, you can tell he's trying to be funny, but the thing that works for him is that he is funny. So it's okay. Like the thing with that video where every guy is doing like the NFL Sunday night or whatever, like naming their college or their junior team. And you can just tell he's holding back laughter.
He's trying not to laugh.
Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry as his junior team. That was excellent.
And like when they asked each player about what video or what movie what's their favorite movie. And I swear they went through every player, and every time they came back to Zegras, and he was like, "Yeah, I like movies. Let me think. What movie do I like? Yeah, I definitely like." And just the way he like delivers it, it's just like you can tell that he's trying to do this to be funny, and it's working. And so I love it. I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Let's see. The Puff asks, assuming everything were to break the right way for us, do you think we would legitimately have a shot at going deep in the playoffs?
No. Deep.
Everything no, but if you make the playoffs,
okay,
you have a chance of going deep if everything breaks right.
The
likelihood of it is low, but there's a chance.
Well, sure, but okay. So what's everything breaking right? Like realistically, like a realistic everything breaking
realistically right. Is John Gibson bounces back to the player that he was and is able to maintain that performance through the playoffs. Trevor Zegras and Troy Terry are point per game players at least. And the second line of Strome, Henrique, and McTavish are all 60-point players, 50 to 60-point players.
Yeah, Mason McTavish is the Calder, trophy winner.
If you have Zegras and Terry putting up 80+ points in the season, you have McTavish putting up 60 some odd points along with Strome and Henrique.
So we're just talking about playoffs though. They just got to get in.
No, but if those guys are able to develop like that and play like that and continue that into the playoffs, and they're able to get solid enough defense work from the defense, they're gonna be able to outscore some of their problems.
So here's that's the thing, and that's I think
if John Gibson is John Gibson or is able to be the type of John Gibson,
who exactly is that?
If he is one of the best goaltenders in the league, and you have a team that can outscore their problems, that is a recipe for success for going deep.
I think I'm gonna stick to my guns and say I still am doubtful because we just discussed that bottom six.
Oh, I don't think it's likely.
Well, no, but the problem with your best case scenario is I feel like it doesn't address the things that are the true weaknesses. And so I think for your hypothetical to hold up, you would need Isaac Lundestrom to become like a shutdown third line center. Like you need something from the bottom six.
Then we'll add that into this.
Yeah, then I would think more realistic, but I'm sticking to no.
I think more likely than not it's not happening, but sure.
But I think that you're sure. I mean, but the case you made is well taken, and yeah, I think the biggest thing that you've said out of all of those is John Gibson looking like the 2018, 2017, 2018 version of himself.
Hey, Odiflo said, will Derek Grant start the season in the NHL or AHL?
Derek Grant, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
He's an NHLer. He's an NHLer nominally. I want to be very clear here. He is nominally an NHLer. He plays on an NHL team. He has a name on a jersey. He gets paid NHL checks. This is not a commentary on his ability as an NHL player.
Okay. I'm happy you made that distinction. Bucky Duck said, what are your boldest predictions for the Ducks this season?
Well, the boldest one would probably be that they make the playoffs, no?
Yeah, I think make the playoffs. I think you and I are both kind of on that bandwagon of they're going to be close.
Yeah, I think that the bottom six worries me, but I think that we've talked a lot about internal improvement being a driving factor for their success this year, and I mean Isaac Lundestrom is part of that group. He is eligible for an improvement because he's still so young. So there's a chance.
Yep,
there's a chance.
91 Pluty asked, how did it feel to lose to him in fantasy football this week?
Who?
Connor.
Did I lose?
Well, you heard it here first. Connor, I broke the news for you.
Did I lose? I thought I was going to win.
I guess you lost.
I don't think so.
Well,
I think he's lying.
Yeah. Chris Kober asked us on
What?
We're going to Twitter.
I lost by like 1.4 points. That's insane. That's stupid. How did this continue? How did this happen?
Chris Kober asked us. He's saying Saquon, baby. Chris Kober had said, I know there's a lot to talk about, but I vote for at least 10 minutes breaking down Kent French's interview with Temu and Paul. Have you listened to that interview yet?
No, sorry. I'm just fuming over this.
Okay.
That's fine.
So have you listened to the interview?
No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say
I listened to like a clip, but you know.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say what's your favorite part? I'll give mine. I think it was just the ribbing between the two and just how they really worked so well together. I guess that's not a favorite part, but just like the back and forth that they had, there were so many good stories. I think everyone should go listen to that if you're a Ducks fan.
I lost by 1.4 points. Like, where's my pity party?
There's no pity party. Hockey South said, should the top line be McTavish, Zegras, Terry? I don't think Aikens will allow it, but should it be?
I think there's a chance because they love Mason McTavish.
Yeah.
And Mason McTavish could be really good right away. So there's a chance. Yes.
Yeah. Luke Caccia said, if the Ducks sit in a playoff position come trade deadline, do you see them being buyers or sellers?
I think that's a great question because I don't really have a firm handle on that. I could see Pat Verbeek just kind of being like a soft buyer. Like, I don't think that they would do anything super drastic, but I think that they may add, like small upgrades. Maybe you go out and get a third liner or a fourth liner to bolster that bottom six.
I think soft buying is the best way to put it. I think it's a situation where you don't buy just to buy and to bolster your team for a playoff run, but you look to buy, and if the right situation comes available, you do.
I don't think they're spending a first. They're not spending one of their second rounders. Right, you're looking at a smaller deal to improve the team, and some people may hold that against Pat Verbeek. But again, you got to think big picture. Like if they're in a playoff position at that point, it's just kind of gravy for this season.
The long-term plan isn't the playoffs this year.
Yeah, like exactly.
As much as you and I both think that can happen, and think that if the right things happen, things go in the right way, everything like that. But that's not the long-term plan. The long-term plan is to be contending for a long period, not going all in and blowing it all on this first time being in the playoffs.
Correct.
Even Wilder Wing said, who do you want to see coming back our way for Klingberg at the deadline?
Well, assuming that the Ducks are trading him at the deadline, I think realistically you can get probably a couple draft picks for him.
Yeah.
Probably a first and a second. Yeah. Would be my guess. And maybe, it depends how well he's playing. Yep. I think that's a big part of it.
I think at least a first. At least a first plus, I guess.
Yeah, look at what was handed out last year, and I think that can guide your analysis.
Yep. All eggs in one basket said, summer 2023, who will be the Ducks' next Klingberg-sized signing, and will Dallas Aikens be extended going past the season?
I love these questions because the season hasn't even started yet, and we're talking about off-season for next year.
Dallas Aikens extension, yes or no?
No.
Okay.
Wants his guy.
Yep, I agree with that.
But I could see it. I'm coming around to that possibility.
Sorry, I was one season past. 24-25 though, the off-season, Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
There it
is. He's not gonna stay in Toronto.
There it is. Austin Matthews to the Ducks to play with his best friend Troy Terry. I'm making stuff up right now. I know that him and Terry are.
Do they even know each other?
They play together on a national development team.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
That must mean they like each other.
Yeah. Mike Prevost said Cap Friendly has Henry Thrune's rights expiring August of 2024. Any insight to this being the case or just a mix-up on Cap Friendly's part? So I saw this and I DM Cap Friendly. They have not gotten back to me. I'll reply to you, Mike, if I do get a reply from them. But from going on their website, it seems like it's a mistake, probably due to the fact that he didn't play in college for a year because of the Ivy League going out. But it looks as if, to me, his rights should be expiring August of 2023 because that's 4 years after his draft. So,
well, Lacombe, they have Lacombe correct.
They have Lacombe, but that's because Lacombe played the COVID year at the University of Minnesota.
Okay. Well, I think it has to be wrong because you've heard Pat Verbeek's comments about this.
Correct.
And so
and even on Cap Friendly's website, it says August 15th 4 years after they're drafted.
Yeah, so there you go.
Duncan at Gigantor said, this one might be a little more thought out, but what teams are the Ducks definitely better than in the Pacific and Central Division? And what do you think the Ducks playoffs odds are if you had to put a percentage on it? All right, let's give playoff odds first if you had to put a percentage on it.
I would say 35%.
I'm going to go higher. I'm going to go 50-50.
50-50? Okay. I mean, I think 35% is pretty solid. You know, like a little bit better than a 1 out of 3.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm just, going to be positive right now.
Maybe I'll go to 40%. Like 40% is probably the highest I'd go. But in terms of who they're better than in the Pacific, I think that's one's easy.
Here, let's run through the list of all the Western teams and just say yes or no. Colorado.
Yes. Just kidding. No.
Minnesota.
No.
St. Louis.
No.
And you can answer because he said, are they definitively better than? So if it is a maybe, you can answer with that. But the question is definitively better than. Dallas.
Yes.
Okay. Nashville.
Yes. Maybe.
Okay. Winnipeg.
Yes.
Chicago.
Yes.
Arizona.
Yes.
Okay. Pacific Division. Now we've got Calgary.
No.
Edmonton.
No.
LA.
No.
Vegas.
Yes.
Vancouver.
Yes.
San Jose.
Yes.
Seattle.
Yes.
So Vegas is the one I'm iffy on, but I'm leaning towards yes.
You've waffled hard on that.
I have very hard.
You've waffled hard on that, and it's frustrating to me.
I think that the Ducks are either going to finish 4th or 5th in the Pacific and make the playoffs out of it. I think they're better than Dallas, Nashville, Winnipeg, Chicago, Arizona.
Yeah, I think I just haven't really thought through Nashville that much. Nashville's going to be tough because they still, I don't know, they have names.
Nino Niederreiter's a good pickup for him, but yeah.
And I mean, their blue line is still respectable. They still have a good goalie. I don't know. I'm a maybe.
There you go. Maybe. We got Trevor Zegras asking us questions. Trevor Zegras, Twitch, we're coming to you next, so start getting those questions in there. And so he has this question. Do you guys think the Ducks not naming a captain for the season enhances the chance of Zegras getting the captaincy next year? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Well, yeah. Because if they had named someone else than him, then he's done. So
does it enhance his chances? That's, I guess, where I'm more iffy. But
does it make it likelier? Yeah, I think he has an opportunity now.
Okay.
I think it's possible now. Yeah.
Okay, and then I think we can answer this pretty quick. We saw Nils Lundqvist traded to Dallas. If you were Verbeek, would you check in on either Nick Hague or Rasmus Sandin? Sandin, yes. Hague, I'd check in on. I wouldn't be willing to pay as much.
Check price on Hague.
Yeah. And so if the Ducks had the 2nd overall pick in 2021, would you still take McTavish?
Oh, boy. Jogging my memory. Well, you wanted William Eklund.
No, I would have taken Matty Beniers if they had 2nd overall.
Was Eklund? Am I thinking of the wrong draft?
No, you're thinking of the right draft. Eklund was...
Okay.
I would have taken Eklund or Beniers.
Oh, 2nd overall. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I think Beniers would look really good on this roster right now.
Yeah.
Because the Ducks could put Mason McTavish at center. They're just choosing not to, but neither here nor there.
Yep. All right. So we'll get to some questions now from Twitch. But for those of you watching on YouTube, yes, we're on YouTube, youtube.com/crashspawn, where you can watch our videos, subscribe to us there. Please subscribe to us. Hit that like button on these videos. It does help out significantly. If you leave comments, I will reply and have a little discourse in there also with you if you want. So check us out at youtube.com/crashspawn. Or if you're on your favorite podcast services, you can find us every Monday night. Yes, we're back on that Monday night grind, 8 p.m. as the season begins. Every Monday, you can find us there at twitch.tv/crashspawn, where you can support the show. If you have Amazon Prime, you get Twitch Prime Gaming, and you get one free subscription each and every month. It does help support the show more than you can imagine, and you get special emotes in the chat, special badges next to your name. People asked her earlier, and I'm just going to throw you on the spot because I don't want to look this up, so you get to. People asked her 7 said, what do you think of Ben King's numbers in the WHL? He had a huge jump from last year, and here's hoping for a Jamie Benn or a Mark Stone.
What?
I don't know.
I never in my wildest dreams, and I've had some wild ones.
Ben King.
That I would hear Ben King's name alongside, what was it, Jamie Benn and who else?
Mark Stone.
Mark Stone. No. The answer is no. I don't think so. Here's the thing. Ben King was on his, third season, fourth season
like
in the WHL?
I see what he's saying, going from 28 points to 105, but that's also like COVID, like years made it 21 games. This is his first full season.
Well, he had 28 points in 21 games.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if anything, which one is a better points per game? Probably the second one. I would imagine.
Probably.
My math isn't great, but I'm looking at the numbers. I think I've heard, we talked to Mitch Brown, or I think I've DM'd Mitch Brown about Ben King a little bit, and is not a bad player. He's got some interesting tracking data on him in terms of his ability to create plays, so he could be a guy that becomes something. I think that's totally a fine take, but the next Mark Stone, the next Jamie Benn, I would caution that.
The issue with that is that even though he was drafted this past year, this was his third year of draft eligibility.
Yeah, he's been passed over, and he was deservedly drafted, and all these guys who have had to go through the shutdown years, it's been tough for them.
Yep.
But I would keep those expectations cautioned, but maybe he could turn into something.
Goons Never Say Die asks, what are your expectations of Gaucher? He had a first question. What are your odds of Zellweger making the roster? And if he does he play 9 games or more?
My odds for him making the roster are 66%. 2/3. 2 out of 3 times he makes the roster.
Wow. You're just going in those thirds, aren't you? I'm going to go with 70%.
Wow, you just have to one up me, huh?
Yeah, obviously. 9 games or more, I'm going to put that a lot less likely.
Yeah,
I put that at 20%.
Yeah, I just, it sucks because I dislike the scenario for him, but yeah, I would go 24%.
I could also just see them saying screw it and burning the year off his deal and not really caring, and I could see them caring
and still going back.
I could see them caring more about the year of service for him because of his age, as compared to
I could see them also seeing him play really well in the NHL and being like, well,
screw it,
he's better than what we've got.
Yeah.
He's ready, So I would put the odds of him surpassing 9 games maybe a little higher, maybe at 33%.
Okay. Wow. There you go. Goons Never Say Die also said, what are your expectations of Gaucher if he does make the roster this year?
I think he has a chance to be just a good bottom 6 player. I feel that's kind of his destiny, right? But he does have a little playmaking to him. We know this from his junior career. But I think a good bottom 6 player. That's and for this year specifically, I mean, he probably won't amount to an above replacement level NHLer overall. Maybe a little bit beyond that, but he's going to be an effective contributor. I think that's what he can be.
Fatrell asks, question, do the Ducks trade any prospect / AHL young players this year? If so, whom?
Well, for what? What are we...
Yeah, I don't really... Maybe for a Jacob Chikrin, but I don't know where that's at. He's kind of hurt, and so who knows where that ends up at. Maybe they do for Erasmus Sandin, and that happens sooner than later. It would have to be something like that, though, where they traded these guys. Maybe.
Tracy?
Maybe those are the guys. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing here is that...
Jones?
I mean, Jones isn't a prospect or a AHL young player, though, at this point in time.
No, I don't know what he could really get you.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Pastajov, maybe. I mean, one of these guys is probably going to get traded because, they're probably not all going to make the team. So
yeah, I mean, maybe a Tyson Hines, maybe a Noah Warren.
Minchukov, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, legitimately, it possibly. Who knows? I mean, I don't think there's anyone that's untouchable in the prospect system.
Maybe a Zellweger. Maybe. I mean, depends what you can get for him.
Yeah, it depends. I think everyone has their price in this prospect system, and so we'll see.
Over the summer, would you have included Zellweger in a trade for Kevin Fiala?
Ooh. That's tough because of Fiala's age.
As in the age being a negative?
Yes, because he's 26. And so
I can get behind that.
That doesn't necessarily align with the Ducks window.
Let's say, would you have done Zellweger for there was a younger forward that we were all about for a while. It'll come back to me.
Ottawa traded for him. Why am I spacing?
DeBrincat.
Maybe.
Yeah,
that
24.
one I would have been more likely on. He's still older, a little bit older though.
I mean, he's still. I mean, but he's he's an all-star caliber forward who's in the prime of his career. I just want to see Zellweger in the NHL. I'm just at that point. I just want to see it.
Let's end with this one. Tendy Terror asks, with the creativity and high skill that Zegras brings to the NHL, do you think that will create a target on his back?
I mean, has it not already?
It has. Here's the thing. The best players in the league and the most highly skilled players are able to be that because they're able to avoid those situations with their skill. How many times has Patrick Kane, how many times has Johnny Gaudreau been drilled? How many times, legally, has Trevor Zegras gotten drilled? The only time I can really think of him getting absolutely crushed was that Cedric Paquette hit along the boards. And that was an illegal hit.
I mean, there's always this thing with star players is unless they're like, one of these like Jonathan Taves types, right, where everyone just assumes they're tough. There's a target on their back. I mean, think back to Sidney Crosby early in his career and all the issues he dealt with. Ovechkin, target on his back. It's just, it comes with the territory. That's not going to deter these guys. They're still going to come at you. They're still going to be the players that they're capable of.
Like, I think that just comes with the territory.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Zegras, though, I kind of liken him a little bit to like a PK Subban, right? Where a guy who does have that off-ice component, and there was always a little bit of that subtext. But when it's time to play, when it's time to get serious, Trevor Zegras is game. Yep. He's a willing combatant. So. Yep.
All right. I think that's going to do it for us tonight.
Yep. We're going to get out of here. We're just going to go over a few different ways that you can help support our podcast.
I'm going to do real quick. Zegras McTavish point prediction.
Oh, is that a question?
Yeah.
Or is that just you?
Question. It just came in. I like it to end with.
I'm going to go Zegras 78 points. I'm going to go McTavish 58.
I'm going to go
I don't know why 8.
McTavish 61, Zegras 86.
Wow. Okay. Do we think that scoring this year is going to be as high as it was last year?
Yes.
Okay. I'm seeing 82 and 69.
Nice.
In the chat. Nice. Very nice. Let's see. Oh, include goals and assists.
Oh, that's too hard. I don't have that for you. Sorry.
Yeah, too much math. Sorry. Okay, well, no, we have to give him that because we can't be a numbers show and not do numbers questions.
Zegras 25, 20. Let's do Zegras 30 goals, and that would put him at what, 56 assists?
I'm gonna put him at 24 goals.
30.
He's gonna get a lot of assists, is my prediction. I think that's where he's gonna butter his bread.
McTavish 20 goals, 40 assists. Or 41 assists for 60
Man,
points.
we are predicting him. That's a monster rookie year.
Yeah. I'm going to be wrong, and I fully admit that this is going to be way too high, but I want to go in and I want to have I want to have some hope. So we're doing this.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Like, these are definitely going to be way too high, so don't take me at my word with these, please.
Well, that's a lot to ask. Okay, well, I think that's all we've got. I do want to go over, though, a few ways you can support us. And I want to start here because, I mean, it's where we always start. But the number one way that you can support us is to leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. And we get, I mean, we see the numbers of how many people listen to us each episode. And we see the number of people that have left reviews. And we know for a fact that there's some of you out there who have been listening to this show for a while who have not left a review. And so we're not trying to force you or accost you into doing it, but it helps us out a lot. We hope that we provided you with enough value to warrant that. And we kind of did a similar call to action last podcast, and people came through with some reviews, and these are fun to read. We actually get some insight into what we can do to better your experience as a listener. So we'll go through these. The promise is always that if you leave us a review, and assuming that there's no profanity or anything inappropriate, we will read it on the show. So let's start here. HB Gal 99 left us a 5-star review. Great Ducks podcast. Felix and Jake are always entertaining, and I've learned a lot about hockey while listening to their show. Thank you, HB Gal. That means a lot. We're here to educate, if nothing else. Let's go to SoCal Pats fan. Ooh, that's Patriots fan in SoCal. Ultimate Ducks Podcast is the title. 5 stars. Thank you. If you remotely like the Ducks, this is the best podcast. Give great insight on all aspects of the team, even during the offseason. Felix and Jake have a really good rapport. Oh, I would agree with that. It's a must listen.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both you and HB Gal. I realized I didn't say thank you. So thank you to both of you. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a nice one. And then this one from L Dimps said, great work, 5 stars. Love the pod, guys. Very insightful. Even though I don't always agree with every take, I appreciate the thoughtfulness and research that goes into your remarks. Great banter too. Haha, keep it up. Go Ducks. Thank you. That one tugs at the heartstrings a little bit.
That's exactly what we go for. We try to at least provide backing for our opinions. Even if you're not going to agree with them, you can at least maybe understand where we're coming from.
Yeah, I would hope that when people are listening to us, they're actively listening and they're not just, taking everything we say like at face value. Like, yeah, push us a little bit. Like that's what we're here. We're all here to get better. And then this one from Kurt1SB, #Elite1P. I love that. A little ode to the Elite 1C. 5 stars. Inarguably the best Ducks pod out there. The subgenre is 95% idiocy, but luckily these guys fall in the 5%. I don't know if I'd agree with that proportion. 2 negatives, however. Their shtick is to create seemingly imaginary narratives to argue against, i.e. the fan base's unrealistic expectations of insert player and their insistent wrestling or food blather. I'm going to push back on everything that was said there. The unrealistic expectations, people tweet at us regularly what they think about the team. We are not making shit up here.
We should do a better job of just ignoring it, though. So that's a fair point.
It's a fair point. It's a well taken point. And look, the insistent wrestling. I try to minimize the wrestling. I try.
I get asked questions. I get asked questions by people, and I just answer them.
That's fair. And then the food blather. Look, I will try to do a better job, but the food is here to stay. The food takes
Sprint Car F1 in our Twitch chat just said more wrestling talk, please. So one pro, one con. So we have the shit show portion of the show at the end typically. So
we'll try to keep it at the end.
We try to make it clear it's the shit show time. So if you don't enjoy that, that could be where it ends.
But the review goes on. If you can get past it, which this reviewer fortunately did, the pod is quite enjoyable. Felix and Jake are at their best when they vehemently disagree on an aspect of the game. The analytics don't tell the full story, so the balancing act they teeter when laying out one's perspective versus the other is absolutely where they peak. All in all, a great job, fellas, so thank you. And then he added, P.S. for God's sake, can you please add in the episode length to Apple Podcast?
Thank you for saying that. I had no idea until you put this in there that was not something that was on our Apple Podcast. I didn't know that's something I had to manually input with our hosting platform. So I am going to try to be doing that from now on. So thank you.
So thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the constructive criticism. I think that this walked the fine line of the respectful tone, even when delivering critiques. So thank you to everyone. I mean, this is awesome.
Yes.
Like that Kurt SB just showed, like, something you can leave in the review can directly lead to an improvement of the listening experience, i.e. adding the episode length. So if you want to leave a review, we'll read it on the show. We'll get into it at the end of each show. It's just search Crash the Pond on Apple Podcasts. Really easy to do. Probably takes like 5 minutes tops maximum. You can also find us though on Spotify. Leave us a rating and a review there. Check out our Patreon. This is a big one. Patreon.com/crashthepond. For $1 monthly pledge, you get access to our Discord server where you get to connect with other diehard Ducks fans. This is truly like one of my favorite things that has come out of doing this podcast is that it's this little community of fans. And, we're not just there to talk hockey, although we do get into that a lot, but there's a food channel, which we get into some fun conversations there. We talk other sports. A fantasy football league came out of it, as I am being reminded of tonight. It's just a lot of fun. And there are just so many worse ways to spend one single dollar. And it actually does add up and helps us out a lot, keep this thing going. So check that out. You'll get a lot out of it. And then for $5 a month, if you want to bump that up a little bit, you also get access to 2 bonus episodes. We go more in depth into the team than sometimes we have to get through the news in the regular show. So it's a little easier to go deep dive on those. We'll do league-wide rankings, things of that nature. A little more unfiltered on those shows as well. You can also find us on YouTube. Check out the video format of the show.
Really quickly on Patreon, I wanted to add this. Just as of today, we got the ability from Patreon to do anniversary billing. It's a subscription billing, however they want to call it. Basically what it means is previously, if you were to sign up for Patreon and you did it right now, you would get charged on the 26th, and then they charge everyone on the 1st. So you get charged on the 26th, and then additionally on the 1st. They have now changed that, and they've changed that for everyone, which is much better, and we were able to update our billing for that. So if you are a patron currently, nothing's changing for you. You're still going to get billed first of the month. But if you are a new are interested or anything like that, and you don't like that Patreon was doing that, anything like that, now if you were to sign up today, you would get charged on the 26th of every month. And that's how it will be moving forward for any new patrons.
Yep. And then on top of that, check out our website, crashthepond.com. We have a shop on there. So if you're trying to gear up with new apparel for the season, we've got some cool t-shirts with our logo on there, coffee mugs, stickers, all sorts of things to gear you up for the season. crashthepond.com/shop. You can find Crash the Pond on Twitter. Search it there. On Facebook, Jake is on Twitter at ReindeerGames91. I'm on Twitter at Felix_Sicard. And that is going to do it for the show. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you in a week. And hopefully by then we'll have some video evidence of preseason games. We'll get there. Yep. I promise.
Bye.